Number 5.
Yeah, this is sure to ruffle some feathers. So once again, I'll reiterate, this isn't a review or a definitive list of which game is objectively best. These are our opinions, and neither one of us thinks there's actually been a truly bad Halo game. With that out of the way, Halo Combat Evolved requires no introduction. This is a game that launched a 20-year-long franchise spread across video games, books, comics, web series, animation, and live action. This is the game that made the Xbox. This game didn't just figure out how to bring the first-person shooter genre to console, it revolutionized the FPS. I played a ton of first-person shooters on PC growing up. Like a lot of guys my age, I grew up with Half-Life and Counter-Strike, but none of the FPSs I ever played had vehicles like the Warthog, Banshee, Ghost, or Scorpion. And these enemies, the enemy AI might not be too complex, but each enemy type behaves completely different from one another. Elites are fast and dangerous, prone to going invisible or mixing up ranged combat with brutal melee attacks. Jackals march forward with their shields held up. Grunts dutifully follow orders until their superiors die. Then they scream and panic, or they fall asleep on the job. The Flood rush at you, but they also target Covenant and Forerunner sentries just as much as the player. And other FPSs certainly didn't have Marty O'Donnell's score, or these wonderful aesthetics. Sure, the UNSC looked a lot like the Marines from Aliens. That inspiration is obvious. But what looked like the Covenant before 2002? I love Halo. I loved doing split-screen couch co-op. I loved getting together with my friends and doing large system link matches on Sidewinder, Hang 'em High, boarding action, and of course, Blood Gulch. So why is this game so low if I can proclaim it as being great? Well, this isn't a list of what's objectively the best, or which game is the most influential. This is our favorite top 10. And when we both are playing through Halo, this game feels the most dated. It's a slower paced game. Vehicles are looser, weapons are not as precise. This is also the only game in which the AI Marines can't drive vehicles. Well, until 21 years later when Halo Infinite came out without that feature. While its sound design is still its best quality, that quality isn't applied uniformly. Weapons sound weak, as do explosions. Level design is also fairly bare. While there are standouts, mostly Silent Cartographer, a lot of Halo level design is low-textured hallways and levels that are repeated. And of the top 10 games, Halo Combat Evolved might have the single worst level in the franchise, with the level The Library. Ultimately, this is probably the biggest upset on the list. Halo is a classic, one of the most influential games of the last 20 years. But it's just not the Halo game we reach for when we want to play Halo. But I will say, without this game, there wouldn't have been Red vs. Blue, and without that, we wouldn't have ever met. And there wouldn't have been this YouTube channel.
God, our friendship is nearly 20 years old.
Nearly 2/3 of my life. Fuck.